You know that feeling right before you start planning your yoga class? That little knot in your stomach when you stare at the blank page or empty screen? You are not alone. Whether you're spending hours overthinking the perfect sequence, or falling back on the same old reliable flow, or just deciding to wing it and see what happens, you're caught in what we could call the planning confidence cycle. And it's stealing your time, your creativity, and honestly, your enjoyment of teaching. Let me explain what this cycle looks like. You doubt your ability to plan an effective class, so you either overcompensate by spending hours researching and planning, or you avoid planning altogether. Either way, this affects how confidently you teach. When you overplan, you're too in your head during class, worried about forgetting something. When you underplan, you're uncertain if what you're offering is balanced or effective. This lack of confidence during teaching then feeds back into your planning anxiety for the next class, and the cycle continues. Most yoga teachers are stuck bouncing between these extremes. Some weeks you're a meticulous planner, other weeks you're winging it completely, and neither approach is giving you the results you want. Confident teaching that serves your students while preserving your time and your energy. But what if there were a middle path between rigid sequences and complete improvisation? A framework that gives you both structure and freedom while cutting your planning time in half. Today, I'm sharing the S.E.R.V.E method, a practical approach to help yoga teachers break free from planning anxiety and teach with genuine confidence. No more Sunday nights spent stressing over sequences. No more second-guessing yourself right before class. The S.E.R.V.E method stands for structure your foundation, experience before teaching, repeat with purpose, vary with intention, evolve your voice. Think of it as your recipe for teaching success, one that balances consistency with variety and structure with creativity. S.E.R.V.E is both a food analogy and a reference to service, which is our role as yoga teacher guides. Let me break down each component of this practical framework. S stands for structure your foundation. Every effective yoga class needs a physiologically sound foundation. This is where my 6-4-2 framework comes in. You can learn more about it in this video and in my 2024 book, The Art of Yoga Sequencing. But here's a quick rundown. The 6 is 6 movements of the spine, 4 is 4 lines of the legs, and 2 is 2 core actions. The 6 movements of the spine include forward bends, back bends, side bends in both directions, and twists in both directions. By including all of these, you ensure spinal mobility in every plane of movement. Forward and back in the sagittal plane, left and right in the frontal plane, and round in the transverse plane. The 4 lines of the legs address the front of the legs, the quads and hip flexors, the back of the legs, the hamstrings and calves, the inner thigh, adductors, and the outer hip and thigh, abductors. Ensuring your sequence addresses all these areas creates balance, strength, and flexibility in your students' lower bodies. The 2 core actions, stabilization and articulation, ensure your students develop both static strength and dynamic movement capacity. When you start with this 6-4-2 structure, you're like a chef with a really well-stocked pantry. So your recipe might call for 1 cup flour, but you decide which type: all-purpose, whole wheat, gluten-free. Having this structure ensures that you create a balanced meal while giving you tons of creative choice. Here's a useful tip. If you like to color code, you can color code your sequence notes to quickly visualize balance. You could use a highlighter or the highlight function if you're creating your sequences on the computer. You could go like blue for forward bends, red for back bends, green for twists. Suddenly, you can see at a glance if your class is physiologically balanced. The E in S.E.R.V.E stands for experience before teaching. Here's a truth many teachers miss. If you haven't felt a sequence in your own body, you'll struggle to guide it confidently for others. You've got to embody it before you can teach it well. Think about the last time you taught a transition that felt awkward or a pose that just didn't land right with your students. Chances are you hadn't fully experienced it yourself first. Before teaching any sequence, even one you've created, practice it. Notice where transitions feel clunky, or intensity builds too quickly, or where you need more preparation or more recovery time. Just like a chef tastes the dish during cooking and again before serving it, you need to experience your sequence before teaching it. This builds confidence that comes from embodied knowledge, not just theoretical planning. I've found recording yourself talking through the sequence, then practicing with your own guidance reveals so much. You'll immediately notice if your cues are clear, if the timing works, and if the flow feels natural. One teacher in my mentorship program reduced her pre-class anxiety immensely simply by implementing this one component of the framework. She said, "When I know how it feels in my body, I can guide it with genuine confidence." R stands for repeat with purpose. Here's a radical idea in the yoga world. You don't need a brand new sequence for every class you teach. In fact, thoughtful repetition benefits both you and your students. For you, it reduces planning time and allows refinement of your teaching. For your students, it creates familiarity that helps them go deeper, rather than constantly figuring out what comes next. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about teaching identical cookie-cutter classes week after week. I'm talking about thoughtful repetition with purpose. Think of it like serving a signature dish with seasonal variations. The core remains recognizable, while small changes keep it interesting. Create a monthly theme with weekly variations. Same basic structure, different emphasis each week. This could mean you reorder the poses in your standing segment, or add or remove props, or find other interesting paths up the same mountain, as it were. This is how you get to the point where you spend less time planning your sequences than teaching them. And when you get really good, you'll be able to plan a month in an hour or less. Best of all, your students will see more progress because they're building on familiar patterns rather than constantly learning new ones. V stands for vary with intention. While repetition creates a foundation, thoughtful variation keeps your teaching vibrant. The crucial distinction is varying with clear intention rather than changing things randomly in pursuit of creativity. Many teachers feel pressure to constantly create new sequences to keep students interested. But students don't actually want completely different classes every time. They want meaningful progression and thoughtful adaptation. Effective variations respond to your students' actual needs and abilities, the energy levels and the time of day, seasonal considerations, and specific focal points, not your anxiety about being creative enough. Like a chef adjusts spices based on available ingredients or customer preferences, you make purposeful adaptations that serve real needs. Create a variation bank for each part of your class structure, a collection of options for different energy levels, experience levels, and physical needs. When you decide to introduce a variation, you'll do so from a place of purpose rather than pressure. A teacher in my Teaching Yoga to Athletes program who works with athletes uses this approach to adapt her core sequences for different training phases. Her athletes love the consistency, and she loves the flexibility to meet their changing needs without reinventing the wheel every time. E stands for evolve your voice. Your teaching voice is uniquely yours. It naturally develops as you gain experience and confidence. But too many teachers try to force this process by either rigidly sticking to scripts or completely winging it without foundation. The S.E.R.V.E method isn't about conforming to someone else's teaching style. It's about giving you a reliable foundation so your authentic voice can emerge organically. This is the journey from line cook to chef, from following recipes exactly to creating your own signature dishes. With solid fundamentals, your unique perspective naturally infuses your teaching. As you become more comfortable with structure, experience, repetition, and intentional variation, You'll naturally begin integrating your personal insights, stories, and wisdom into your classes. After each class, note one moment where you felt most authentically connected to your teaching, and one opportunity moment where you could infuse more of your unique perspective next time. Identifying these will help you evolve your own authentic voice. What makes the S.E.R.V.E method so powerful is how it addresses the root cause of your planning anxiety. This false belief that you've got to choose between structure and creativity, between consistency and variety. These aren't opposing forces, they're complementary elements that strengthen each other. Structure enables creativity by giving you a foundation to build upon. Consistency creates space for meaningful variation by establishing patterns. Experience builds confidence that leads to authentic expression. When you embrace this approach, you'll spend less time planning and more time connecting with your practice, with your students, and with your teaching purpose. I've watched hundreds of teachers transform their classes and careers with this framework. Teachers who were burned out find renewed enthusiasm. Teachers who were uncertain develop genuine confidence. Teachers who were stuck in routines discover fresh creativity. The beauty of this S.E.R.V.E method is its simplicity and its flexibility. It works whether you teach vinyasa, flow, yin, chair yoga, or anything in between. It serves you when you're teaching beginners or advanced students or multi-level classes. If the planning confidence cycle I described at the beginning sounds all too familiar, I invite you to try just one component of the S.E.R.V.E method this week. Think about how this cycle has been affecting your teaching life. How much time do you spend worrying about your class plans? How often do you feel truly confident while teaching? The planning confidence cycle keeps you stuck because it creates a false dichotomy that you've got to choose between thorough preparation and responsive teaching. The real breakthrough comes when you recognize that structure and creativity aren't opposing forces. They're complementary elements that support each other. The S.E.R.V.E method breaks the cycle by giving you a sustainable approach to your class planning that actually builds your confidence rather than undermining it. When you have a reliable framework, you spend less mental energy on the basics and can focus more on genuine connection with your students. Your intuition and your creativity have space to emerge because you're not constantly second-guessing the fundamentals of your class structure. Start with structure. Make sure your next class includes all 6 movements of the spine, all 4 lines of the legs, and both core actions. See how that simple framework immediately creates a more balanced and a more effective class. Or try the experience component. Practice your planned sequence before teaching it, noticing where it could be refined. Ready to dive deeper? Join my free workshop on teaching multi-level classes with the S.E.R.V.E method in June. I'll show you how to apply this framework to one of teaching's biggest challenges, classes with mixed experience levels. It happens at my virtual studio focused on teacher development, Comfort Zone Yoga. The link is in the description below. And if you're seeing this after the event, send me a message in Comfort Zone and I'll point you to the recording there. Teaching yoga can be rewarding and it can also be hard. Let's not make it any harder than it needs to be. Because here's what I know for sure after over 20 years of teaching. When you free yourself from planning anxiety, you create space for the real magic of yoga teaching to emerge. Your classes become more effective. Your students feel more supported. And you rediscover the joy that brought you to teaching in the first place. Drop a comment below with which component of the S.E.R.V.E method resonates most with where you are in your teaching journey right now. I'd love to continue the conversation and to support you in taking your teaching to the next level.